And I'm struck by the irony that I'm supposed to say something wise and insightful about what is not, and to some degree cannot be, known. What can one say about mystery? What do we know about the unknown? Well, we can talk of its vastness. There is more mystery, more that we don't know, than what we do. A lot more. And I can't say this next part with any certainty, but I do suspect that mystery may be infinite, that there is no end to what we don't know. Another thing that we can say about mystery is its incomprehensibility. At some point, we reach the limits of what we are even able to understand with our limited human brains. I like to think of this as trying to explain politics to a dog. Even a very smart dog who can fetch and roll over would be absolutely lost if you tried to explain even the most basic elements of politics to them. An attempt to convey simply that here in America we have a two-party system would likely result in the tilt of a head, or maybe a tail wag, or perhaps a responsive bark, but it would not result in comprehension. And as real as political consequences are in our lives, and certainly those would also have an effect on the quality of life of dogs as well, these political forces will never be understood by our canine companions. To a dog, politics is simply incomprehensible. And so it reasons to stand that at some point in the mystery, perhaps we are just very smart dogs who have learned how to do amazing things like fetch and roll over and discover subatomic particles and harness nuclear energy. But the limits of our human brains are such that we simply cannot comprehend the next level of reality, much less the highest level of reality. And that is if there even is a highest level. That's assuming that there are, in fact, limits of what there is to know and to understand, and that whatever is not infinite. But let's not spend too much time here contemplating infinity. It's too easy for our finite, limited selves to get lost in that swirl of limitless forever. And so I like to focus the mystery on the human puzzle. There's much more here that can be understood, and we have far greater access to the subject of study. And when I say the human puzzle, I mean humanity as a whole. I want to know what makes us human. I want to know what we fundamentally are, what makes us go, what gives us purpose, what we seek, what we fear. What, if you take it away, makes us not human anymore? And in contemplating the essentials of our humanness, it helps me to think of humanity as a giant 7.5 billion piece puzzle of which we are each a piece. And figuring out how we all fit together, how we are all interconnected, and what we all share by virtue of our belonging to the same puzzle, cut by the same jigsaw from the same material, well, that just sounds like a much more approachable mystery than the table that the puzzle sits on, or the room that that table is in, or what lies beyond the door of that room, etc., and so on and so forth. You see, if we get too much bigger than ourselves, or too much smaller for that matter, we lose the ability to comprehend what we're even dealing with. We can only reach so far in either direction. And really, why would we even want to try to go beyond our reach? There is plenty here within our reach that is yet untouched. There is plenty that is knowable, but is still unknown. This is the near mystery, the mystery of possibilities and potential, the mystery of hope and imagination. This is the realm where we can dream about what is possible, about what could be. It wasn't that long ago that we couldn't fly. Now, airports are in every major city, and for a relatively small fee, we can soar tens of thousands of feet above the surface of the earth, and we can even watch TV while we're doing it, just to be sure we don't get bored as we cross hundreds of miles in a matter of minutes. And why stop there? Not even 60 years after the Wright brothers flew the first airplane at Kitty Hawk, humans flew beyond the limits of our planet into space. And as we continue to push our physical boundaries and limitations by going farther and farther than until recently we would have even thought possible, there still remains so much more to explore, to discover, and for us to learn. So focusing back in on that human puzzle again, it makes sense that we would seek to understand not just what we are as human beings, but what it means to belong to humanity, what we are connected to. What is the context of our humanity? As I contemplate this, I'm reminded of the song that we sang this morning. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? And under that, mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. So where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? These are questions that are about us, about our identity as humans. But they are also about our connection to something greater than ourselves. And this is where the scientific meets the spiritual. When we reach the edge of what we can explain, of what we can know, we are standing at the edge of mystery. And at this place, we trade our scientific tools for our spiritual ones. We are spiritual beings. We are holy. We each contain a mystery within. There are depths within each of us, unknown even to ourselves, waiting to be discovered. The more I sit with myself and learn about who I am, the more I discover that I don't know. As Walt Whitman put it, I contain multitudes. I invite you to consider this poem by Reverend Angela Herrera called Utterance of the Timeless Word. You bring yourself before the sacred, before the holy, before what is ultimate and bigger than your lone life, bigger than your worries, bigger than your money problems, bigger than the fight you had with your sister and your aches and your pains, bigger even than your whole being, your whole self, who is part of and trapped within and blessed with a body that does what you want and doesn't do what you want and wants all the wrong things and wants all the right things. You stand at the edge of mystery, at the edge of the deep, with the light streaming at you, and you can't hide anything, not even from yourself, when you stand there like that. And then, what? Maybe you call your pastor and say, "What is this? What am I looking at? What do I do?" And your pastor comes and stands at the edge with you and looks over. She can't hide anything either, she thinks, not even the fact that she doesn't know the answer to your questions, and she wonders if you can tell. She thinks of all the generations who have come there before you and cast out words toward the source of that light, wanting to name it. Somehow, she thinks to herself, the names stayed tethered to the aging world and got old, while the light remains timeless and burns without dimming. Meanwhile, The armful of worries you brought to the edge of mystery have fluttered to your feet. Unobscured by these, you shine back, light emanating unto light. You, with your broken heart and your seeking, you are the utterance of the timeless word. The name of the holy is pronounced through your being. I love this poem. I find it so reassuring to hear that in the face of mystery, in the face of uncertainty and the unknown, to hear that I am holy. That I am the utterance of the timeless word, a walking, breathing expression of the holy mystery. And like the mystery beyond us, we don't need to know everything about the mystery within in order to know the truth of our holiness, to know that we have worth and dignity. Angela's poem tells me this, and my Unitarian Universalist faith tells me this. Reverend Marilyn Sewell explains it well in her article, The Theology of Unitarian Universalists. She writes, "There's a theological perspective that Unitarian Universalists have concerning truth. We believe in evolution, not only evolution of life forms, but evolution of thought and evolution of moral and ethical understanding. So the truth that I embrace today may not be the truth I embrace tomorrow. Revelation is not static, but is ever unfolding. More and more will be revealed. Our part is simply to be open and thirsty for the truth that would be ours, but just for the time being. Such a stance keeps us humble and awake. When we venture into the mystery, we are entering the ground of the infinite with the powers of a finite mind. An awe-filled agnosticism is perhaps the better part of wisdom." So perhaps our quest for truth and meaning is not so much about attaining a total and complete knowledge of the universe, but rather it's about the quality of the knowledge that we're acquiring. An awe-filled agnosticism is perhaps the better part of wisdom. Yeah, perhaps it's wisdom we should be pursuing. And certainly we can learn wise words, clever sayings, and sage advice. And we can also learn to heed the unspoken wisdom of the body, whose language is not words. It listens through the senses and speaks through our feelings and emotions. There is wisdom in listening to the ache in your shoulders, to the tension in your brow, and to the knot in your stomach. I'm not very good yet at deciphering what it's all saying, but I'm learning how to listen when my body speaks. And what about spiritual wisdom? It's this that I think Marilyn Sewell was talking most directly about when she writes of an awe-filled agnosticism being the better part of wisdom. That when it comes to spiritual wisdom, perhaps the best and most accurate thing that we can say is, I don't know. To admit this requires a confident humility, which certainly sounds like a paradox itself. But consider how much more confidence it takes to say, I don't know, when looking at mystery, than it does to become defensive of our insecurities. When we don't know, we can either pretend that we do or admit that we don't. Only one of these reactions is authentic. And let's face it, nobody likes a know-it-all. And the truth is, we can't be one anyway. We cannot truly know it all. Mystery is greater than any of us. It is greater than all of us. And when we decenter ourselves by going beyond the need to be right, we move in the direction of growing and understanding more about the universe to which we belong. And although we can never fully arrive at a complete knowledge of what is, we can forever be learning more. This is why I identify as a lifelong learner. To me, there is purpose in life that I derive from always growing, but that comes without the pressure of having to fully arrive at a complete and absolute understanding of truth. This would be the death of mystery. And one thing I believe is that mystery will never die. It is the nature of mystery to be bigger than we can know, either alone or collectively. And in the face of mystery, I choose to respond with curiosity. While it's true that I can never know everything, I can always know more. The infinitude of the universe both relieves me from having to know it all, while simultaneously reminding me that my learning is never finished. So, where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? All good and important questions. There is so much of the mystery, too much, really, to try to solve it. And tempting as it is to consider these or other big questions like who or what is God? Or is there even such a thing as the divine? Or what is the nature of the universe? These questions are so big that perhaps the only satisfactory answer that is within our comprehension is, it's a mystery. Life is indeed a riddle and a mystery, and the more I contemplate it, the more comfortable I become with what I don't know. I just find it exciting that there are so many wonders yet to discover.